I want to tell you a story about a young woman. Let's call her Elle. It's a true story told to me by a listener, her dad. Elle is a military pilot serving in a Western Allied Air Force. Since she was a little girl, she has had one consistent goal in life: become a fighter pilot. Elle finished school, was accepted into, then graduated from, a military academy and started military pilot training. But during flight school, she hit a wall most of us never think about: severe air sickness. Imagine being mid-sortie, performing under pressure, and having to remove your oxygen mask, reach for a bath bag, then proceed to fill it, before securing it in one of your flying suit zip-up pockets. Oh, and then continue to deliver your best. And not exactly what you'd want to happen when you're also trying to keep a formation tight or do aerobatics. Eventually, Elle was sent for desensitisation training. Think being stuck in a box and being spun around with no visual reference until you throw up. Rinse, repeat, until hopefully you stop getting motion sickness. During my own military pilot training in Australia, I know people who had to do this. They called it the vomitron, and it was not a term of endearment. Still, Elle persisted. She graduated from pilot's course and received a highly sought-after posting to fly large military transport aircraft, one of those roles that most pilots would trade body parts for. But it wasn't fighters. And then she saw her final ranking on course. Bottom of the class. And suddenly, the inner voice kicked in.
Do I even deserve to be a pilot? Was I a diversity hire? Did I only pass because I'm a girl?
There it is. That horrible inner voice that likes to jump up on your shoulder and say the vilest things to you. Things you'd never say about another human being. But here you are, saying them about the person closest to you, yourself. Hello everybody, I'm Phil Wilkes. Welcome aboard the Like a Pilot podcast, where we unveil the soft skills pilots utilise every time they strap into those high-speed aluminium and carbon fibre giants we call airliners. This show is your ticket to understanding the how and why behind what makes aviation one of the safest modes of travel. So, it's time to fasten your seatbelts and join me now as we embark on a journey through the skies, where pilot skills become the blueprints for high performance in any field. Imposter syndrome, negative self-talk, doubt. This isn't just Elle's story. In the pursuit of perfection, pilots tend towards being their own worst critics. As a trainer of pilots, there's a scenario I've seen play out all too often. A perfectly competent pilot has an average simulator session. Not a failure, just not their usual standard. And suddenly they start spiralling. Self-doubt creeps in, and before long they're dissuading themselves from something they absolutely know to be true, that they can safely fly from A to B. Although this podcast is aimed at a broad audience, non-pilots, surprisingly, many of my listeners are pilots. And with promotion courses on the horizon, quite a few of them have reached out to me recently. They asked me if I had any advice about dealing with their own self-doubts. So, for Elle, for all of you who reached out, and for anyone else who wants some tools to deal with those times you're thinking of ganging up with life to punch yourself in the face, this is your episode. Let's talk about that voice. The one that undermines you, casts doubt, and questions your worth or your ability. The one that leaves you anxious or affects your performance. The one that makes you choke or leaves you frozen, unable to act. You know the voice. When life punches you in the face, what is that voice in your head saying? When you're beating yourself up, what is the worst thing you tell yourself about yourself? What is your inner monologue? Sometimes, like Elle, or those pilots preparing for promotion, it starts from within. A whisper of self-doubt after a setback, or a less than perfect day. Or maybe you've just experienced one of life's hiccups that leads you to question, do I really have this? Other times, the voice is planted by someone else. A comment made in jest, or criticism at just the wrong moment. Maybe it was an offhand remark from a manager, a parent, a peer. Over time, that voice stops sounding external. It starts sounding like you. It's lodged itself so deep, you start repeating it yourself, internalizing it, owning it. It's the voice that pipes up after a tough day and says, you don't belong here. The one that whispers in your ear just as you're about to step into something big. They're going to figure you out. But that voice isn't truth. It's just a story. And like any story, repeated enough, it becomes familiar. So familiar that sometimes you forget it was ever even a draft. Here's the thing. Just because something feels familiar doesn't make it true. That's how belief systems form, not from truth, but from repetition. Belief systems are like mental firmware, invisible code that shapes how you operate subconsciously. But unlike the programs on your computer or your phone, this internal programming rarely gets checked or updated. Left unchallenged, these beliefs start to feel like facts. But they're not. They're just thoughts we've gotten very, very good at rehearsing. Does this mean we're broken? Hell no. Even the highest of achievers can suffer moments of self-doubt. By every measure, Maria Jovanovic is a high achiever. Maria is a member of the Order of Australia for her service as the commanding officer of an RAAF Maritime Patrol Squadron. She's flown dozens of aircraft, earned a master's degree in flight test engineering, and became the first Australian in 25 years to graduate from the prestigious United States Air Force Test Pilot School. But it wasn't all triumph. Maria's story offers a compelling reminder that even those performing at the highest levels can struggle with imposter syndrome. Despite living out what most would consider a dream, flying supersonic jets at historic Edwards Air Force Base, Maria found herself gripped with doubt. After a high-intensity mission in a notoriously difficult aircraft to fly, the T-38 Talon, Maria found herself hot, overwhelmed, mentally drained. She considered quitting. Then, in a fleeting moment, she saw a fellow test pilot, a Marine Corps fighter pilot, strapping into the same jet to fly the exact same mission she'd just completed. He looked cool, composed, elite. She caught herself thinking, oh man, look at that guy. The helmet, the jet, the whole thing looks so cool. And then it hit her. Hang on a second. I just did that. I looked just like that. Why does he look cool, but I don't feel cool? It was, as she puts it, the first time she saw imposter syndrome in real time. Recognised it, named it, and started pushing back against it. That moment didn't erase the doubts, but it gave her the power to challenge them. In essence, she rewrote the story in her head. Instead of, I don't belong here, she chose, I just did what he's about to do. That means I do belong. It marked the beginning of her journey to unlearn the belief that achievement and confidence always go hand in hand. But what if she'd accepted the story she'd initially been trying to tell herself? That's the danger of negative self-talk. When you accept the story without question. That's how you end up with someone like Elle, who earned her seat, flew through adversity, and still thinks maybe she snuck in through a side door. So, how do we challenge that voice? How do we get back to evidence? That's what we'll unpack next as we look at 3 powerful tools to challenge limiting beliefs, whether they come from within or were planted there by others. These aren't fluffy affirmations, they're practical, evidence-based methods to help you rewrite the stories you tell yourself. Tool number 1, the contrary evidence technique. This tool comes directly from my book for pilots, Performance Pilot, co-written with performance coach and ex-IndyCar driver Ross Bentley. In the contrary evidence technique, we begin by looking at your limiting belief and fact-checking it. When the inner voice says, "I'm not good at this," or worse, "I can't do this," don't just accept it. Ask yourself, is that actually true? On the most fundamental level, beyond any shadow of a doubt, is it a fact? Take that limiting belief and actively go looking for as many pieces of evidence or examples from your past that you can think of that contradict that negative belief. Find at least 5. 10 is better. It may help to actually write these down. You say, "I'm not leadership material," but you've mentored others. You've taken responsibility when it counted. People already come to you for guidance. You've already had positions of leadership. You say, "I'm always the one who messes it up when it matters." But you've nailed presentations, held it together under pressure, closed the deal when it counted. You say, "I'm not qualified. I don't have the experience." But you've solved problems others couldn't. You've lived the job you're claiming not to deserve. You say, "People like me don't make it to that level." But look at where you are now. Look at how far you've already come. You say, "I'm not the kind of person who." But the truth is, you already are. You're just telling an outdated story. Unless you have absolutely zero contrary evidence, you've been lying to yourself every time you've repeated that limiting belief. But I'm betting you find heaps of contrary evidence. And if you're struggling to find 10 examples, ask someone who knows you well. You'll be surprised what they remember that you forget. This isn't self-delusion. It's cross-checking, testing the story against your own history, the truth. How do you use it? Next time you find yourself falling back on your limiting self-beliefs, you simply replay your truth, your examples of contrary evidence to dissuade yourself of these beliefs. Call yourself out on the lie that is your limiting self-belief. This is the very tool I suggested for Elle. Next time she started down the path of questioning whether she deserved the place she'd earned, she needed to remind herself that she passed pilot's course. Many other pilots didn't. Her course graduation position was a reflection of the marks she'd received for the entirety of her pilot course, including the portion when her performance was affected by air sickness. Her graduation position was only used as a means to determine the ducks of the course. It doesn't measure her graduation standard. Her posting, on the other hand, would have been purely based on her graduation standard, and she'd received a plum posting. The chief flying instructor's opinion was that she would make fighters one day. He would be very aware of the standard required and where she slotted in. And finally, she'd easily managed her type rating onto her shiny new toy and was held in high regard at her squadron. Using contrary evidence to reframe your beliefs is also what Maria did instinctively when she pushed back against the imposter syndrome and recognised that she did belong exactly where she was at, test pilot school. To round out Maria's story, she finished near the top of her graduating class, trailing only 2 of the most talented fighter pilots on the course. Maria 1, imposter syndrome 0. Tool number 2, reframing your identity. In their 2002 hit single, Point of View, Italian electronic music group DB Boulevard urged us to consider that life's easy if you consider things from another point of view. Now that you've challenged the belief, let's examine what it drives you to do so you can spot when it starts to creep in. Virus check it. What's your go-to behaviour when this voice takes over? Do you delay, avoid, downplay, distract? When you believe I'm not good enough, do you hold back from replying? When you think I'm always late, Do you skip preparation? Every limiting belief leaves a behavioural footprint, and every behaviour reinforces who we think we are. So here's how we break it. This is how you start to reverse engineer the story. Take a limiting belief you hold. Write it down at the top of a blank page. I can't handle pressure. I'm not leadership material. I always procrastinate. Whatever it is, be honest. Name it. Now, draw 2 columns. In the left-hand column, list all the things you do when you believe this. What are the behaviours that support and reinforce the limiting belief? What do you do that makes you feel this is true? Skipping preparation, staying quiet in meetings, hitting snooze, scrolling instead of starting, playing small, letting others lead. Then, in the right-hand column, list what you'd do if you believe the opposite. What actions would someone take if they believed, I do handle pressure. I rise to the occasion. I seek opportunities to lead. I take action early. Those actions might include prepping ahead of time, speaking first, sending the pitch, locking your phone in another room, starting the task for just 5 minutes. Once you see it laid out, the pattern becomes obvious, and so does the path forward. Now here's the pivot. Ask, what identity do those right-hand behaviours suggest? This is where you rename the belief. Ask yourself, who would I be if I believed the opposite? Choose the identity that sits opposite the limitation and act accordingly to this identity. Instead of saying, I'm trying to eat healthy, claim the identity. I'm someone who eats for energy. Then prove it, one choice at a time. Don't say, I'm trying to get fit, or I'm trying to quit smoking. Step into the identity. I'm a runner. I'm a non-smoker. And then go do what runners or non-smokers do. Lace up, say no, move forward. Don't say I'm a procrastinator. Claim I'm someone who gets things moving. Then prove it. Start small. Start now. Don't say I'm nervous about being in charge. Step into I'm a leader who learns by leading. Then step up, take charge, make the call. Don't say I always choke. Own I deliver when it counts. Then prepare, breathe, and step into the moment. This isn't pretending, it's choosing. You claim the identity, then act from it, one action at a time. This is about choosing your identity, because we act in alignment with who we believe we are. And when the identity changes, the behaviour follows. And with enough repetition, so does the belief. Think about it. If you believe you're a runner, you'll run, even if it's cold, even if it's inconvenient, because that's just what runners do. This isn't faking it, it's choosing the role you want to play and taking actions that make that role feel true. You're not waiting for permission to become the person you want to be, you're showing up as them, starting now. We don't rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our beliefs. Tool number 3, triggering a performance state of mind. Now, sometimes you don't have time for journaling or mental rewiring. Sometimes the moment's upon you. The sim check, the interview, the performance, the pitch. And the voice is back. Here's what to do in that moment. Change your state. Your state of mind isn't just mood, it's your entire operating system. And the fastest way to reboot it is by replaying past successes. Before a high-stakes moment, ask yourself, when in the past have I absolutely nailed it? Maybe it was the time when you felt unstoppable in a meeting, a conversation that changed everything, a flight you flew flawlessly, a patient you calmed, a deal you closed, a hard thing you did anyway, a sporting triumph. It doesn't even have to be in the same field of endeavour. Now, replay these kick-ass performances in your mind like they're on your highlight reel. See them, feel them, remember who you were in those moments. If you can, layer in a trigger, a word, a gesture, something that links the memory to your body, like clenching your left fist or whispering your own mantra, smooth and confident, smooth and confident. With a trigger, you can launch the highlights reel anytime you need it. Performance coaches call this anchoring, and it's another tool I'm borrowing directly from Performance Pilot. Instead of waiting to feel confident, you're drawing on past successes to trigger a performance state of mind. You're not hoping for your best self to show up, you're calling them in. In this episode, we've seen that even the most accomplished people wrestle with doubt. Elle, Maria, pilots facing promotion. You, me. But the difference isn't whether the voice shows up, it's what you do next. Maria didn't let the voice define her, neither should you. So next time that voice pipes up, challenge it, audit it, reframe it, trigger your performance mindset, choose the identity you want to live into, and act from there. You're not the story your doubts are trying to sell you, you're the author, and you get to write the next chapter. Thanks for flying with me today. Until next time, believe like a pilot. If you know someone standing at the edge of a new chapter, a promotion, a performance, a big step, send this their way. You'll find Maria's article linked in the show notes. And if you're a pilot listener and haven't read Performance Pilot yet, there's a link for that there too. A big shout out to my good mate Troy, who just checked out as an Airbus A330 first officer. Good one, dude. And also to Paul, both of whom let me workshop this episode with them. Also a shout out to new listeners, Tim and Jeremy, who got in touch via email. Tim, I promise you your episode suggestion is in the queue. Until next time, thank you for listening to the Like a Pilot podcast. For more information, check out the show notes at philwilkes.com/podcast. The Like a Pilot podcast is written and produced by me, Phil Wilkes. If you'd like to support the Like a Pilot podcast, you know you want to, our Patreon page is available at patreon.com/likeapilot. And if you've liked the show, please remember to rate, share and review. Oh, you're still here. Okay, we've landed. But before we wrap, how about a bonus for those of you who listen to the end? You're now ready to go with your 3 tools. But why don't we do a fun little experiment to really drive the point home? We've taken a look at where your thoughts come from, the sharp ones, the ones that cut to the burning core of your identity, the ones that come at you in bright flashes of certainty, the ones that readily pull you in a certain direction, even when you can't explain why. We like to believe our minds are shaped by logic and reason, but often they're built from snapshots, fragments, little pieces of memory and emotion stitched together. A flash of something urgent, a symbol we've seen before, a name we haven't heard in years. And suddenly, we're walking down a path we didn't mean to take. Thoughts are fast, beliefs are sticky. And once you've seen something a certain way, it's hard to unsee it. I want to share an experience with you to sear my point into your mind. If I asked you right now to think of a colour and a shape, not the clever ones, not the unusual ones, just the first that comes to mind. A colour that readily comes to mind, a simple shape. Maybe a blue square, but don't pick that, that's too obvious, that's me getting in your head. Pick something else, something that feels like yours. Got it? If you're like 80% of listeners to this podcast, you're thinking of a red triangle. Even if you didn't think of a red triangle, just consider the fact that 80% of people listening to this podcast did. That wasn't random. That was a thought you didn't even know was already waiting for you. And it didn't come from nowhere. That shape, that colour, they were already sitting in your mind. I didn't put them there. I just gave them permission to rise. Now, if I can steer the thoughts of 80% of listeners with a few phrases, a quiet image, the shape of a sentence, what do you think happens when the voice isn't mine, but yours? The voice in your head isn't neutral. It doesn't just describe your life, it builds it, one phrase at a time, one belief at a time, one red triangle at a time. Your thoughts shape your experience, even when you think you're in control. So, be kind to yourself. Choose your thoughts carefully.